The space station Virella Prime Academy floated above a shining blue world, a place where gravity, species, and culture met under one roof. Cadets from 50 different civilizations trained there to keep peace across the galaxy. Humans had joined only a few years ago. They were small in number but famous for their fast learning, creative thinking, and strange habit of smiling even in danger. Most other species saw them as unpredictable, or maybe just odd. Ethan Cole was one of those humans, a young engineer cadet with short brown hair, steady hands, and the kind of mind that saw machines as puzzles waiting to be solved. He preferred quiet places, the hum of reactors, the soft flicker of plasma conduits. While others partied in the rec halls, Ethan was often found fixing broken drones or reading technical manuals. That morning, the Academy announced a joint species repair drill. Every cadet would be paired with someone from a different race to fix damaged plasma regulators in the outer hangar. Ethan's name appeared beside Soraya Velenthar, an Elysian. The Elysians were tall, graceful beings with pale blue skin, silver eyes, and long fingers that moved like art. They were known for logic, discipline, and emotional restraint. To them, order was beauty. To them, humans were chaos with legs. When Ethan arrived at the hangar, Soraya was already there, standing beside a half-burned plasma unit. Her uniform was spotless, not a single wrinkle. She looked at him the way a scientist might study a new experiment. "You are the human, Ethan Cole," she said, her voice calm and melodic. "That's me," Ethan replied, smiling. "Guess we're repair partners today." Her silver eyes blinked slowly. "You will follow my instructions precisely. The Elysian method values precision." "Got it." Precision first, they began working in silence. Ethan handled the heavy tools while Soraya used her delicate instruments to stabilize the plasma core. Her movements were sharp and exact, almost like a dance. For hours they adjusted coils, aligned conduits, and calibrated energy cells. Despite her cold tone, Ethan noticed the focus in her eyes. She wasn't arrogant, just serious about her work. He respected that. When the repair finally finished, the plasma regulator came back to life with a soft blue glow. Soraya inspected it carefully, then nodded once. "It is restored," she said. Ethan stepped back, wiping sweat from his forehead. "That's beautiful work," he said without thinking. The word left his mouth like air. Casual, automatic. Back on Earth, beautiful work was just praise. But Soraya's reaction was instant. Her fingers froze mid-motion. Her head turned sharply toward him. The faint light of the plasma core reflected off her skin, and he noticed the color shift. Her pale blue cheeks turned a faint violet. Her silver eyes widened just slightly. Ethan blinked. Did I say something wrong?" She didn't reply. Around them, a few nearby cadets stopped and stared. Whispering started. "Did the human just—" someone murmured in a clicking alien language. Soraya stepped back, her posture suddenly stiff. "Human," she said quietly, her tone unreadable. "You should refrain from such words." Ethan scratched his head, confused. "Wait, what?" "I just meant your repair was great." "I didn't mean—" She turned sharply, cutting him off. "Elysians do not use the word beautiful lightly. It carries personal implications." He opened his mouth, then closed it. "Oh," he said finally. "Well, sorry?" Her eyes flickered with something, maybe confusion, maybe embarrassment. "Apology accepted," she said at last, then walked away quickly. Ethan stood there, speechless. Around him, cadets still whispered. By dinner time, the story had already spread through the academy like a solar flare. The human confessed to the Elysian.
"He called her beautiful."
"Do humans flirt during repairs?" Even his human friends couldn't stop teasing him. "Smooth move, Romeo," one of them said with a grin. Ethan groaned. "It wasn't flirting. I just said her work was beautiful." "Yeah," his friend laughed. "And apparently that means marriage on her planet." That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay on his bunk, staring at the ceiling of his small dorm room. He replayed the moment in his head. Her frozen face, the sudden color change, the strange silence afterward. Why had a single word caused such a reaction? Humans used beautiful all the time, for sunsets, engines, even sandwiches. He made a note to himself. Never compliment an Elysian again. But somewhere in the Elysian dorm wing, Soraya was also wide awake. She sat by the window looking out into the stars. Her fingers brushed her cheek, the place that had changed color. No one had ever said that word to her before. Elysians rarely complimented appearance or expression. They admired skill, logic, perfection. Yet when the human said it, something inside her chest had moved. A warmth, unfamiliar and soft, had spread through her. Beautiful, she whispered the human word, testing it. It sounded strange in her accent, but pleasant. The next morning, things were awkward. When Ethan entered the training hall, he could feel the eyes on him. The story had clearly grown. Now people thought he was courting her. He just wanted to disappear. Soraya was there too, standing in her usual perfect posture. When their eyes met, she gave a small nod, polite but unreadable. "Cadet Cole," she said in her calm voice. "We will be paired again for tomorrow's systems test." "Oh," Ethan said, trying not to sound nervous. "Sure, no problem." She hesitated for half a second. "I appreciate your assistance yesterday." "Anytime," he replied. "Just, I'll watch my words this time." For the first time since they met, she almost smiled. It wasn't big, just a small curve of her lips. That would be wise. The rest of the day went normally, but the strange tension between them remained. Whenever they worked near each other, Ethan could feel her eyes studying him, not coldly but curiously. After class, he was packing his tools when he heard her voice again. "Human," she said softly behind him. He turned. "It's Ethan, actually." She tilted her head. "Ethan, I wish to understand your language better. Particularly, your use of descriptive words." He frowned, surprised. "Descriptive words?" "Yes," she said seriously. "Words such as beautiful, lovely, handsome, they seem powerful to your kind." Ethan scratched his chin. "Well, they're just ways to show appreciation or emotion. It's kind of our thing." "Emotion," she repeated quietly as if tasting the word. "Strange, yet fascinating." They stood there for a moment, the air between them calm but alive with something unspoken. Finally, she said, "Thank you for clarifying." "No problem," Ethan said with a small grin. "And, for what it's worth, your repair work really was beautiful." Her eyes widened again, the violet flush returning for a moment. But this time she didn't walk away. Instead, she nodded almost shyly. "Then, I shall accept the meaning as you intended, human." Ethan blinked, a little stunned. "You mean not as a confession?" Her lips curved slightly again. "Not today." She turned and walked off, her long steps smooth and graceful. Ethan watched her go, half confused, half amused. "Not today," he muttered to himself. "What does that even mean?" That night, Soraya wrote in her personal log. Elysians kept detailed daily records. She wrote, "Human Ethan Cole displays unusual emotional patterns. His words are impulsive yet sincere. When he used the term beautiful, I experienced a physical reaction I cannot yet explain. I will continue observing him for further data." But as she ended her report, she found herself smiling. A small, private thing no one would ever see. She whispered the word again, just once. "Beautiful." Outside the window, stars drifted across the black sky. Two cadets, one human, one Elysian, stared at the same universe, neither knowing how much one small word had already begun to change both their worlds. Days passed quietly after the beautiful incident, but the strange link between Ethan and Soraya refused to fade. Every time they were assigned to the same project, there was a silent awareness between them. Not friendship yet, but curiosity. For Soraya, curiosity was a powerful thing. Elysians were logical creatures. They studied everything with discipline. But now she found herself studying a human instead of an experiment. That morning, they met again for a simulation test, a complicated training scenario involving damaged power lines and unstable fusion cells. Teams had to repair the system while the AI simulated danger, rising radiation, flickering lights, and time pressure. When Soraya arrived at the chamber, Ethan was already there, crouched by a console. He looked up with his usual easy grin. "Morning, partner." "Good morning, Ethan," she corrected herself. He smiled wider. "You're learning," she frowned slightly. "Humans place great importance on names, correct?" "Yeah, it's personal. Using a name means respect." "Noted," she said seriously, pulling out her tools. The simulation began. Warning lights flashed red as the AI voice echoed, "System failure in 5 minutes. Radiation leak detected." Ethan got to work, fingers flying over the console. "You take the upper conduits. I'll stabilize the main grid. Understood. The air shimmered with static energy as they worked. Sparks flew, metal hissed, and time ticked fast. Soraya's movements were smooth and precise, but she kept glancing at Ethan. He moved differently, quick, instinctive, messy even, yet somehow everything worked. Your methods lack order, she said, watching him connect wires in an unconventional way. He grinned. Yeah, but they work, don't they? She blinked, impressed despite herself. Humans rely too much on improvisation, and Elysians rely too much on perfection, he said lightly. Maybe we balance each other. That made her pause. Balance, the word echoed in her mind. For a moment she looked at him, not as a human, not as a partner, but as something else. Before she could analyze that thought, the alarm blared louder. Power surge imminent. Ethan saw the plasma valve shaking dangerously. We need to shut that down manually. I'll do it, Soraya said, moving forward. No time. It's overloaded. Ethan grabbed her arm, pulling her back just as the valve burst in a shower of sparks. A wave of blue light passed over them. The safety shields activated, protecting their suits, but the blast threw them both to the floor. For a few seconds, silence. Then Soraya opened her eyes. Ethan's hand was still on her arm. His face hovered close, eyes filled with concern. You okay? He asked. She nodded slowly. Your reaction time is beautiful. She stopped, realizing what she had said. Her voice caught. Efficient. I meant efficient. Ethan tried not to laugh. Beautiful's fine, too. Her skin glowed faint violet again. She quickly stood up, pretending to check the console. System stabilized, she said stiffly. Your help was appreciated, the AI voice chimed. Simulation complete, Team Soraya Ethan. Top efficiency rating. Later, as they walked out of the chamber, Ethan glanced sideways at her. You know, you don't have to sound so formal all the time. It is my nature, she said simply. Yeah, but nature can change. Humans used to live in caves once. Soraya tilted her head. And now you live among stars, he chuckled. Exactly. She studied him for a moment longer. His words had weight, not just sound, but meaning. The idea that a species could change, could choose emotion over logic, fascinated her. That evening, Soraya appeared outside the human quarters. She found Ethan sitting on a bench overlooking the observation dome, a place where cadets came to relax. The stars outside stretched like rivers of light. Ethan was drinking a cup of synthetic coffee, staring at the view. Could I join you? She asked carefully. Of course. He moved aside, making space for her. They sat in silence for a while. Soraya finally spoke. I wish to understand human emotions, especially how you use words like beautiful. Ethan blinked. Still curious about that, huh? Yes, she said. Among my people, such words are rare. We express appreciation through results, not speech. But humans, you use emotions as communication, he nodded. Yeah, I guess we do. Words are how we connect. Sometimes they mean nothing. Sometimes they mean everything. She looked thoughtful. And how do you know the difference? He smiled faintly. You feel it? Feel it, she repeated quietly. Strange, but interesting. She hesitated, then asked, Do you often call others beautiful? Ethan laughed softly. Not really. I guess only when something really deserves it. Her eyes glimmered in the starlight. Then why did you call my work beautiful? He looked at her for a long second. Because it was. You fixed that core like it was art, I couldn't help it. Soraya turned her face away, her cheeks glowing faint violet again. She felt her heart, or whatever the Elysian equivalent was, beat faster. Humans, she said softly, are dangerous with words. He chuckled. Maybe, but we mean well. Before she could reply, a sharp alarm echoed through the dome. The Academy intercom spoke. Attention all cadets. Power fluctuation detected in Sector 9. Engineering teams, report immediately. Ethan stood up. Sector 9? That's the reactor bay. They both ran. When they reached the corridor, red lights flashed everywhere. Technicians rushed past, shouting reports. Conduits overheating. Someone tampered with the coolant system. Soraya's expression hardened. Sabotage, Ethan grabbed a toolkit. Come on. They entered the maintenance shaft leading to the reactor bay. The air was hot, shimmering with unstable energy. Sparks danced across the walls. As they worked side by side, reconnecting coolant lines, Soraya spoke without looking at him. If this reactor fails, the entire station could lose orbit. Then we better not let it fail, he replied, tightening a valve. She admired his calmness. Even under threat, humans joked. They faced danger like it was a challenge, not a sentence. A plasma conduit exploded nearby. Ethan ducked, shielding her. You okay? Yes, she said, breathing fast. You risked yourself. Yeah, well, that's what teammates do. Her voice softened. No, that is what humans do. They managed to stabilize the coolant flow just before the temperature reached critical. The hum of the reactor slowly calmed. As the alarms faded, Soraya exhaled a long breath. Crisis contained, Ethan grinned. Told you we'd make it. She turned toward him, her silver eyes brighter than before. Ethan Cole, she said softly. Your bravery is beautiful. He froze. Wait, what? Her cheeks colored again, but this time she didn't correct herself. She simply repeated slower. Beautiful. Ethan smiled gently. I think that's the first time I've ever heard an Elysian say that word. Perhaps the first time an Elysian has felt it, she admitted. For a moment, they just looked at each other, human and alien, engineer and perfectionist, two beings who should have been too different to understand each other, yet somehow they did. Then footsteps echoed behind them. An officer entered, Commander Trevon, a stern Elysian in silver armor. What is this? He demanded. His eyes moved from Soraya to Ethan. You were in the restricted maintenance zone. We were fixing the coolant line, Ethan said. There was a power surge. Trevon frowned. The human has no clearance to access Elysian systems. This is a breach of protocol. Soraya stepped forward. With respect, Commander, his quick action prevented a disaster. Trevon's gaze hardened. You defend him? I state facts, she said calmly. The commander looked at Ethan coldly. Human impulsiveness has no place in precision work. Remember that. He turned sharply and left. Ethan exhaled slowly. Well, that could have gone better. Soraya looked at him. You have made an enemy, he shrugged. Wouldn't be the first time. But inside she felt a new emotion, anger. Not toward him, but toward her own people's arrogance. They had not seen what she saw. As they walked back through the corridor, Soraya finally said, Ethan, when you called me beautiful, I was confused. Now I think I understand. It is not about appearance, is it? He shook his head. No. It's about what you see, not with your eyes, but with your heart. She touched her chest lightly, as if trying to feel the meaning. Then perhaps I am beginning to see. They reached the junction where their paths separated. For a moment, neither moved. Good night, Soraya, Ethan said softly. She hesitated, then replied, Good night, Ethan. And, thank you. For what? For showing me what words can mean, he smiled. Any time. As she walked away, her steps were slower than usual. Inside her, something new had awakened. A warmth she didn't understand, a feeling that logic couldn't measure. That night, her log entry was shorter than usual. Humans are unpredictable. Their words change hearts faster than equations. Today I began to feel something new. I do not yet have a name for it. And in another dorm room across the station, Ethan wrote a short note in his datapad. Soraya smiled today. Just a little. Somehow that feels like the biggest win I've had all year. Outside, the stars burned quietly, witnesses to something far greater than science, something neither human nor Elysian could explain yet. The academy was quiet that morning, almost too quiet. Cadets moved between classrooms and training halls with tense energy. Whispers filled the corridors. Rumors spread like wildfire. Ethan had no idea what was coming. It started with a simple announcement over the station intercom. Attention, all cadets. A critical power fluctuation occurred in Sector 12. Investigation ongoing. All personnel remain on standby. Ethan frowned. Sector 12? That was the engineering archives. He had been there the previous day, checking some minor equipment faults. Nothing serious. But when the chief investigator, an older alien named Korath, called him in, Ethan's stomach dropped. Cadet Cole, Korath said, his voice heavy and metallic. Evidence indicates that someone tampered with the reactor control units in Sector 12. Security footage shows unauthorized access. You were the last human recorded entering the area. Ethan's eyes widened. Wait, what? That's impossible. I didn't. You were in the area, Korath interrupted. And you are the only human with clearance at this time. We need a full report immediately. Panic clawed at Ethan. I didn't do anything. I was checking a coolant leak in Sector 9 like the orders said. I swear. Korath's expression softened slightly. I hope that is true. But the evidence points toward you. Until this matter is resolved, you will be confined to quarters. Ethan's heart sank. Confined? On a station full of cadets from dozens of alien races, most of whom already whispered about the human who called the Elysian beautiful, confinement could be dangerous. As he was escorted back to his dorm, Ethan's mind raced. Who could have done this, and why frame him? Meanwhile, Soraya watched from the observation deck. Her eyes were silver and stormy. She had suspected something like this might happen. Humans were often blamed for accidents they did not cause. But seeing him confronted with accusations, with fear in his eyes, made her chest tighten. She clenched her fists. Elysian law was strict. Cadets must not interfere in investigations. Obedience was valued above all else. But her curiosity had grown into trust, and maybe even something else she didn't yet want to name. She turned and hurried to the maintenance shafts. If someone had sabotaged the reactors, she would find them. Ethan sat in his quarters trying to piece together the puzzle. He ran over his movements yesterday, checked Sector 9 reactor coolant, avoided all restricted Elysian systems, helped stabilize the plasma conduits. Nothing in that list matched the sabotage. Someone had intentionally planted evidence. But who and why frame him? The door hissed open. Soraya stepped inside quietly. She looked tense, her silver eyes flickering with anger and concern. Soraya, Ethan said, surprised. What are you doing here? I am not here for formalities, she said softly. I believe you are not responsible, Ethan blinked. You trust me. Trust is a complex word, she said, her voice low. I will say this, you are not a saboteur. Relief washed over him. Thank you. But then, who? I do not know, she admitted. But I intend to find out. Come with me. If we work together, we can investigate without the council noticing. Ethan hesitated. Following an Elysian into restricted areas was risky, but he also knew she was right. All right, he said, standing. Let's do it. They moved through the shadowed corridors, avoiding security drones and patrols. Soraya led the way with precision, her long strides silent. Ethan followed, his heart pounding with both excitement and fear. Where should we start? He whispered. The maintenance shafts, Soraya replied. If someone planted evidence, it had to pass through here. There may be traces. As they crawled through narrow shafts and climbed ladders, Soraya explained her plan. I will examine the conduits looking for signs of tampering. You will check logs and readouts from yesterday. Together we will identify anomalies. They reached the reactor undergrid, a maze of glowing conduits, humming machinery and pulsating energy cells. Soraya crouched beside a conduit, her long fingers moving over its surface. Here, she said quietly. This panel was forced open manually, not by the proper access codes, and the tool marks. They are not from standard Elysian instruments. Ethan leaned closer, inspecting. Definitely human-like tools, he said. But not mine. And look, fingerprints. None match mine. Soraya's eyes narrowed. Then someone deliberately staged this to frame you. Before they could continue, a shadow moved along the far side of the undergrid. Both froze. A figure appeared. A cadet from a rival alien faction, the Crithians. They had long been jealous of the Academy's human cadets, especially those who excelled in engineering. You shouldn't be here, the Crithian said, their voice sharp. This is restricted. Soraya stepped in front of Ethan. We know you sabotaged the reactor, she said, her tone calm but icy. Confess now, the Crithian laughed. You humans are naive. Do you think I'd risk myself for a human? No, but I did leave evidence pointing to him. He is perfect for blame. You won't stop me. Ethan's blood ran cold. Why do this? Because chaos benefits my people, the Crithian said smugly. A station accident, blame a human, watch the Elysians squirm. Simple. Soraya's hands clenched. Your actions endanger all of us. You are selfish, foolish, and you will pay for this. The Crithian lunged for a conduit, intending to sabotage more. Soraya reacted instantly, grabbing his wrist and twisting him away. Ethan jumped in to assist, using a maintenance cable to pin the Crithian to the wall. Stop! You will not harm anyone, Soraya commanded. The Crithian struggled, but Soraya's strength and Ethan's quick thinking held him in place. Finally, the cadet sighed, defeated. This is not over, he warned. Then, slipping a small tool into his belt, he vanished into a side passage. Soraya released Ethan. "Are you hurt?" she asked. "No," Ethan said, panting. "That was close." "Too close," she muttered, her cheeks faintly colored, though it was more from anger than embarrassment. Ethan stared at her. You really risked yourself for me." She looked away. It was the right thing. "Not for you, for the station, but I would be lying if I said I didn't care." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. Her words, in the way she said them, meant more than any compliment he had ever received. By the time they returned to the dorm, the academy had already begun a formal inquiry. Security teams swarmed the halls, checking cadets and analyzing data. Ethan was nervous. If the Crithian had succeeded in planting more evidence, he could be expelled or worse. Soraya pulled him aside. "Ethan, you must remain calm. Emotions are dangerous now for both of us. If the council sees you upset, they may judge you unfairly." "I know," he said, "but how do we prove it? How do we find the real culprit?" "You follow me," she said firmly. "I have a plan." The next day, they began a covert investigation. Soraya's knowledge of Elysian systems allowed them to access hidden logs, while Ethan's skill with machines let him detect anomalies invisible to the standard security scans. Piece by piece, they uncovered the truth. Logs showed unauthorized access from a station docking bay used primarily by the Crithians. Maintenance tools were missing from storage. Video footage revealed a shadowed figure, humanoid but alien, slipping through corridors. Ethan's eyes widened. "That's him. That's the cadet from yesterday." Soraya nodded. "We have proof, but it is circumstantial. We must catch him in the act or find the tools he used." The tension between them grew, but so did a silent trust. Every time Ethan glanced at her, he saw not only an alien, but someone who believed in him when no one else would. Every time Soraya looked at him, she saw courage and honesty, qualities her people rarely acknowledged in humans. As night fell, they returned to the observation dome, exhausted but determined. The stars stretched endlessly above them, reflecting the uncertainty of their situation. Soraya finally spoke. "Humans, you act despite fear. You take risks for others, that is not a weakness." Ethan smiled faintly. "Thanks. I guess that's what we do." Her silver eyes softened. "And you called me beautiful. That word, I now understand it can mean more than appearance. It can mean trust, courage, kindness." Ethan felt warmth spread through him. "Then I meant all of that, Soraya." She hesitated, then gave the faintest smile. "Perhaps we are beginning to understand each other." A sudden alarm echoed through the dome, pulling them back to reality. But for the first time, neither of them felt alone. Together, human and Elysian, they would face whatever came next. The academy was tense. Alarms blared through the corridors as the station's emergency systems activated. Sector 12's reactor had been sabotaged again, and this time the threat was more severe. Lights flickered and the hum of unstable energy made every cadet feel the fear buzzing in the air. Ethan's heart raced. He had spent days investigating, following the trail of the Crithian saboteur, and now it seemed the station itself was at risk. Every report indicated the reactor was nearing critical meltdown. Soraya appeared beside him, her usual calm demeanor replaced with intense focus. Her silver eyes glimmered in the emergency lights, and the faint violet flush on her cheeks was more noticeable than ever. "Ethan," she said, her voice sharp, "we have to stop this before the entire station is destroyed. If the reactor fails, thousands of lives are at risk." "I'm ready," Ethan replied, grabbing his toolkit. "Let's do this." They ran through the maze of corridors, passing cadets who were either fleeing or assisting emergency teams. The air was thick with tension, and the faint smell of ozone from the failing systems made Ethan's throat burn. When they reached the reactor undergrid, it was worse than they imagined. Sparks flew from broken conduits, warning lights flashed violently, and smoke hissed from damaged machinery. The temperature was rising fast. Soraya moved immediately, her hands flying over panels, checking readings and rerouting energy flows. Ethan followed, connecting damaged circuits and stabilizing the failing systems. "Ethan," Soraya called, pointing at a broken coolant valve. "If this fails, the plasma core will overload." "I'm on it," Ethan shouted, crawling under a nearby panel. His hands worked quickly, tightening bolts and reconnecting pipes. A surge of energy shot past him, nearly throwing him off balance. But he held on, refusing to give up. Soraya watched, amazed. Humans were reckless, yes, but in moments like this, they were also brilliant. His quick thinking and intuition complemented her precision perfectly. Together they moved as one, human instinct, Elysian logic working side by side. Suddenly, a shadow flickered across the edge of her vision. The Crithian saboteur had returned, attempting to sabotage the reactor further. "You again," Soraya said, her tone icy. "You will not harm anyone." The Crithian lunged toward the plasma conduits with a high-energy tool. Ethan reacted instantly, throwing a maintenance cable around the alien's waist and yanking him back. Sparks erupted around them, but neither human nor Elysian let go. "You are too late," the Crithian shouted. "This reactor will explode and the humans will take the blame." "Not if we can help it," Ethan said, gritting his teeth. "Soraya, help me stabilize the core." Working quickly, Soraya guided Ethan through a series of adjustments. Her voice was calm but commanding. "Reroute the left plasma conduit. Now the secondary coolant lines, faster!" Ethan followed her instructions perfectly, his hands moving faster than ever. Together they shut down one critical surge after another. The Crithian struggled against them, but Soraya's strength and Ethan's leverage held him in place. Finally, Ethan grabbed a control lever and activated a safety lock, trapping the saboteur in a containment field. "Got you," Ethan panted. Soraya nodded, relief washing over her features. "It is done." The reactor hummed steadily. Warning lights returned to normal. The immediate danger had passed. But the exhaustion on their faces reflected the intensity of the battle they had just survived. Ethan looked at Soraya. "That was insane. Are you okay?" "Yes," she said, though her chest heaved slightly from exertion. "Thanks to you. Your actions saved lives today," he shrugged. "We did it together." "You were amazing too." Her silver eyes softened. For the first time, she allowed herself to smile fully. "You humans. You act with courage without hesitation. It is beautiful." Ethan felt his heart skip a beat. "You mean it?" "Yes," she said softly. "Not only your actions, but your words. And your presence." "You are remarkable, Ethan." He laughed quietly, shaking his head. "I think that's the first time an Elysian has ever complimented me like that." "Perhaps the first time an Elysian has truly seen a human," she replied. The Crithian was taken into custody, and the Academy began reviewing the sabotage evidence. Thanks to the logs Ethan and Soraya had found, it was clear that he was innocent, and the Crithian was the real culprit. But even as the situation stabilized, the tension between human and Elysian remained, though now it was different. Something unspoken had shifted. Trust had turned into admiration, and admiration was turning into something more, something neither had expected. Later in the observation dome, Ethan and Soraya stood side by side looking out at the stars. The station was quiet now, the danger past, but the memory of the reactor's surge and the Crithian's attack lingered in their minds. "You know," Ethan said, "for a being known for discipline and logic, you handled that pretty well." Soraya turned her silver eyes on him. "And you, for being reckless and impulsive, acted with extraordinary skill," he smiled. "Guess we balance each other." She hesitated, then whispered, "Humans use words that carry more than meaning. Yesterday you said I was beautiful. Today you saved lives, and I realize now that the word encompasses more than appearance. It can mean courage, trust, loyalty." Ethan looked at her, his chest tightening. "Then I meant all of that, Soraya. I've always meant it." Her cheeks tinged violet again, but this time she did not turn away. "Say it again," she whispered. "Beautiful," he said gently, deliberately. Her lips curved into a small private smile. "Thank you, Ethan. You humans are unpredictable, but perhaps unpredictability is necessary." The two of them stood there, side by side, as the stars reflected in the observation dome. Outside, the galaxy stretched endlessly, full of unknown dangers and unknown wonders. And in that moment, human and Elysian had found something rare, a connection that transcended species, rank, and protocol. They had survived sabotage, chaos, and danger, but the real victory was the trust they had built. The next morning, the Academy formally recognized Ethan and Soraya's actions. The Council commended them for bravery, quick thinking, and teamwork. News spread across the station. The human cadet had not only survived a sabotage attempt but had done so with the help of an Elysian, bridging the gap between species in a way that had never been seen before. Soraya, normally reserved, allowed herself a quiet moment of pride. She had once thought humans were chaotic, impulsive, and reckless. Now she knew they were also brave, loyal, and capable of beauty in ways her people could scarcely understand. Ethan glanced at her during the ceremony. "Looks like we made a good team, huh?" She nodded, a faint violet glow on her cheeks. "Yes, Ethan, a very good team." After the ceremony, the two of them walked together through the academy corridors, unnoticed for the first time in days. Side by side, human and Elysian, they shared a quiet understanding. Words had brought them together, actions had proven their worth, and now, something new was beginning. As the stars sparkled above, Ethan and Soraya knew that this was just the beginning. A beginning of trust, understanding, and perhaps even something more. A bond that no protocol, no rivalry, and no sabotage could break. The galaxy outside the station was vast and full of unknowns, but for the first time both cadets felt that together, they could face anything, and somewhere deep in the back of her mind, Soraya smiled, thinking about one word. And the human who had said it. Beautiful. The academy was calm now. The crisis was over. The Crithian saboteur was in custody, and the reactors hummed steadily without a hint of danger. Yet the aftermath of the past days lingered in the air, thick with tension, relief, and curiosity. Ethan walked through the hallways, toolkit slung over his shoulder, noticing the quiet admiration from other cadets. They no longer whispered about him as the human who called the Elysian beautiful, in a mocking tone. Now they looked at him with respect. He found Soraya at the observation dome again, staring at the stars. She didn't turn when he approached, but she spoke softly. "Ethan, I wanted to thank you properly, Turian, for what?" he asked, leaning against the railing. "For everything. Your actions saved countless lives. Your courage. Your loyalty. And your words." Ethan chuckled. "Words, huh? You mean when I called you beautiful?" She turned to look at him fully, her silver eyes softer than he had ever seen them. "Yes, that word. It has taken on new meaning. Among my people it is sacred. But you humans, you give it life. You show what it can mean. You showed me." Ethan smiled. "I meant it all. Your skill, your bravery, your heart." "I meant everything." For a moment they simply looked at each other, the stars outside reflecting the light of 1,000 distant suns. In that silence, the connection they had built over days of danger, cooperation, and trust became tangible. The Academy Council convened a formal ceremony to honor Ethan and Soraya. The Elysians, usually rigid and reserved, stood alongside humans and other species, acknowledging the human cadets' bravery and the Elysian cadets' decisive action. Commander Trevan approached Ethan, his face serious but respectful. "Human Ethan Cole," he said, "your quick thinking and courage prevented the station from disaster. The Council recognizes your contribution to interspecies cooperation." Ethan nodded. "Thank you, sir. I just did what anyone would do." Soraya placed a hand on his shoulder, a small gesture of closeness. "Not anyone, human. You acted with both heart and mind. That is rare," the audience murmured in agreement. Even the skeptical Elysians looked impressed. Humans, they realized, were capable of more than they had imagined. Strength was not only measured in precision or discipline, but in courage, empathy, and the ability to act when it mattered most. After the ceremony, the two walked together through the academy corridors. The hum of life returned and cadets passed by, offering nods and greetings. No one whispered anymore. The partnership of a human and an Elysian had become an example, a bridge between two very different worlds. Ethan glanced at Soraya. "You know, I think we make a pretty good team." Soraya's lips curved slightly. "Yes, I believe we do. Better than I expected." Ethan laughed softly. "Better than anyone expected, I'd say." There was a pause, and for a moment neither spoke. Finally, Soraya's voice broke the silence. "Ethan, the word you used, beautiful. It is no longer only a word to me. It is how I feel when I see courage, honesty, and care." Ethan's heart leapt. "You mean, for me?" She met his eyes, her silver gaze steady and warm. "Yes, for you. And perhaps for the first time I understand that words can carry more than simple meaning. They can carry feeling, trust, and connection." Ethan stepped closer. "Then let me say it properly this time." "Say what?" He smiled and looked straight into her eyes. "Beautiful. Truly completely beautiful." Her cheeks glowed a faint violet, the Elysian blush of deep emotion. She didn't turn away. Instead, she whispered, "Thank you. Human. That word. I will carry it with me." For a long moment, the universe felt still. Outside, stars sparkled, galaxies spun silently. And on a quiet station above a distant planet, a human and an Elysian shared something neither species could fully explain. In the following days, life at the academy returned to routine, but things had changed. Ethan's ingenuity and bravery became legendary among cadets. Soraya's openness to emotion became a quiet example to other Elysians. Together, they trained, laughed, and sometimes sparred playfully, each learning more about the other's world. Humans learned the beauty of discipline and logic, and Elysians discovered the power of words, kindness, and empathy. One evening, Ethan found Soraya alone at the observation deck, looking at the stars. He approached quietly. "You know," he said softly, "I never thought a word could change so much." Soraya turned, silver eyes glimmering. "Neither did I, yet here we are. Two worlds. Learning to feel," Ethan smiled. "Then maybe this is just the beginning." She stepped closer. "Perhaps. Humans are unpredictable, but you remind me. Unpredictability is necessary for growth." They stood together in silence, letting the vastness of space remind them how small and fragile life could be, and how powerful courage, trust, and connection were. Finally, Ethan said with quiet certainty, "Beautiful." Soraya's eyes softened. "Beautiful," she echoed. Not just the word, but its meaning. Courage, trust, connection, admiration, and something even deeper. In that moment, the bond between human and Elysian became more than respect or friendship. It became a promise that across stars, across species, hearts could connect, and understanding could bloom even where logic alone could not reach. The Academy, the stars and the galaxy beyond were witnesses. Humans had once again reminded the universe. Strength was not only in power, weapons, or technology. Strength was in courage, empathy, and the willingness to reach across differences and be understood. Soraya finally stepped back, still close enough for their shoulders to brush. "Ethan, whatever happens, I will remember this." The word. And the human who said it. He smiled, feeling warmth in his chest. "And I'll remember the Elysian who finally learned what it means to feel." Together, they watched the stars. Somewhere out there, countless worlds spun silently, but on that small station above Varela Prime, two hearts, human and alien, had learned something truly extraordinary. The galaxy was vast, uncertain, and sometimes dangerous. But humanity, with its courage, its empathy, and its willingness to reach across differences, had left its mark.